Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of the latest PSX, the special show just for you Patreon members. I'm your host today, Mr. Alex Evers, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Sunny Sangera. How you doing?
I'm excited, dude. We've just recorded the latest PS5. It's about our favorite genre, fighting genre, so I'm excited.
Yeah, this is just going to be just phenomenal. We very rarely get to hear about the actual sales of some of these titles that we're going to be announcing to you lovely people. So we're going to just jump straight into it. So this is going to be like the rundown of the top five best fighting franchises that are available across all platforms. So there's no discrimination here. We open it all, and you know the one that we're looking forward to.
The only discrimination here is for any Killer Instinct fans. Go fuck off.
You can't knock Killer Instinct, you know. It was actually a good game. On the SNES, it was amazing. As soon as Microsoft bought it, they just fumbled it. They fumbled the ball again, as always. Anyway, but it's not about them. Right, so we got number five, we have Soul Calibur, selling a total of 15 million in the series, with their best-selling game in the series being Soul Calibur 4. It was one of the best fighting games by Bandai Namco, with number four selling 2.32 million, which came out in 2008, which is a phenomenal game, especially the first one that came out. I think I remember playing that on the Dreamcast. That game was awesome. You know what I mean? The fact is that it kind of had similar mechanics to another fan favorite of ours, Tekken, but with weapons, and especially how they even had Yoshimitsu from the Tekken series in the actual game as well, which was phenomenal. You actually get to explore his skill set a lot more. But yeah, did you actually dive into Soul Calibur?
I did, dude. I played Soul Calibur for the first time in the arcades. Loved the game.
Oh, nice.
50p a go every time. I was playing that game. Yeah. And then when I got a Dreamcast, Soul Calibur was one of the first games I picked up. I think it was Soul Calibur 2, I want to say.
Yeah.
And then I picked up once it migrated to PlayStation and then to that controller. That was it. I was like, right. I'm playing Soul Calibur, you know, and Yoshimitsu is in there. They did a year where Darth Vader and Yoda were in specific versions of the game as well.
They did. So, and it reminds me actually, they even had Zelda.
Yeah, I was going to say the year they did Yoshimitsu was the year they had Zelda in the Nintendo version, and then they had somebody from the Microsoft franchises in their one. But yeah, it was a really good game. The weapons made it different from Tekken. For me, my only critique at the time why I didn't love it more, it just wasn't fast enough for me. You know,
wasn't fast enough. Oh, you didn't verse me, mate. You didn't verse me. I
think the reason I say that is obviously we were playing Tekken and things like that, which are more like faster in terms of button presses, whereas Soul Calibur is more. It's a cross between Virtua Fighter and Tekken, isn't it? So
yeah, but it's like the motion capture as well. I mean, Namco is just. I mean, obviously, when it comes to martial arts games, they have that down to a T. And the fact is that they developed the motion capture for using weapons as well. I mean, you're using staffs to swords to, especially Killick. I think Killick had like this amazing staff, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody use a staff that effectively in my entire life. You know, brilliant. And Mutsurugi with his samurai sword as well. I mean, there's only a few. I mean, you can only count on your hand how many samurai franchises that have been successful. Such as like Ghost of Tsushima, probably some of King of Fighters. But anyway, it was a great game in terms of the weaponry. But anyway, jumping on to number four, it's a industry favorite, Street Fighter, developed by Capcom, with a total of 46 million sales, with the top two best selling games being Street Fighter 2, which came out in 1991 with 20.7 million, which was an awesome game when it came out. And Street Fighter 4, which came out in 2008 with 9.4 million. I mean, big difference there between the two.
Dude, I'll be honest with you, I'm shocked and not in a good way for it. Yes, I mean, Street Fighter 2 changed everything for Nintendo. Yeah. You could say it's the most important game along with Nintendogs. And I'll explain why. Because
Nintendogs.
So I was in the industry.
Watch what you say,
I was in the industry. So when the original DS came out, people didn't like it. They didn't like the stylus. The PSP had GTA and Metal Gear Solid on there and Gran Turismo. So everybody was playing PSP. It was selling buckets. Yeah. Nintendo didn't and then they released then they re-switched it. They went pink. They released the Nintendogs games, different colors, and then the DS blew up. And then they got that market in. And then a couple of months after that, the DS Lite came out with Animal Crossing, and it grew.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same effect with Street Fighter. The SNES was being destroyed by the Sega Mega Drive until Street Fighter 2 came out, and then Nintendo were like, right, let's do this. So Street Fighter, but to think that Street Fighter 2 was 20.7 million. What did you say Street Fighter 4 was?
9.4 million.
And then the total series sales is what, 46? So you're telling me that 65% of all Street Fighter sales were those two games. And then think about how many Street Fighter games, alphas, extras, turbo.
Yeah, they did have a lot. Yeah,
it shows that, like, I mean, Street Fighter, don't get me wrong, it's one of the oldest. It's got great lore with all of us. We've all played a Street Fighter some way or another if you're a big fighting fan and a gamer, and it does have a special place for everybody. But the disparity between the top two and the rest shows that Street Fighter is not compared to other games that you're going to get into, it's not consistent like them. If that makes sense.
Consistent. Yeah, it's true. It's true. What I do like about it, I mean, it is the first game that majority of people would have played. Well, yeah, pretty much as standard, right? And even to this day, whenever I actually pick up a new controller from any developer, even third-party ones, I always see, the D-pad. You always give the D-pad a test by doing like.
I do that. I ghost it. No, I ghost it with Mortal Kombat. So I pick up the pad and I do the jump forward kick, slide back, trip over, uppercut.
In the uppercut.
I always do it on the pad.
Or the Shoryuken. And if you can do that well, you know what I mean? If that D-pad mushes down, that D-pad is crap. And I did it the first time I picked up every single pad, especially the last time was on the PlayStation, obviously the DualSense, and it just felt perfect. You know what I mean? That's when you know that they know exactly what they're doing.
I'm sure you kept hitting me in that move in Tekken when you were playing.
It was trying to,
you were like, I can't beat this guy, so I'm going to keep doing this one move.
Especially with Akuma being, get those Hadoukens off, it's easy. All right, well, speaking of Akuma, number 3, we have Tekken. From Bandai Namco. Woohoo! Obviously, he's a show favorite. Your listeners know that we love Tekken. Tekken is probably one of the best, if not the best, games of all time. Well, obviously in the fighting realm, but it's definitely up there. So the Tekken franchise has sold a total of 51 million, with the top selling games in this order being number 1, Tekken 3, which came out in 1998 with 8.5 million, followed closely by Tekken 5, which came out in 2005 with 8.2 million. That was then followed by Tekken 7, the most recent iteration, which came out in 2017 with 7.1 million in sales. And then finally, Tekken 2, which came out, oh my gosh, in 1996. Jeez, I don't even want to see that number. But anyway, with 5.7 million, which is surprising, actually. I thought they sold a lot more than that. But yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the, if not the, it is, for me personally, obviously for us, it is the best fighting franchise in existence. It's taken all the great elements from all the good games from Street Fighter to Mortal Kombat to even the likes of Soul Calibur, as we mentioned earlier, King of Fighters. It's thrown all that into a nice 3D environment, and the responsive time, the coordination, the motion capture, the diversity, the balancing between all the characters is just unlike any other series. I mean, I could talk for days about Tekken, but yeah, man, I should just do a love letter to Tekken and say this game.
Well,
why it's so great.
That's what we just talked about there, is consistency with Street Fighter. If you take Street Fighter 2 out of the equation, and then Street Fighter 4, everything's at like 2 million, 3 million. It was just those two that stood out. Whereas you look at Tekken, 8 million, 7 million, 5 million. I mean, 5th would be Tekken Dark Resurrection at 5.5 million. So it just shows the consistency that Tekken has, and Tekken 7, I get that. It's only at 7.1 million. It's turning itself into a service more so. It's like a live service game where people are playing it more, It'll be interesting to see where they go with Tekken 8. They should just call it Tekken and then have it as a platform
so.
and just keep updating and iterating that.
I think so, definitely.
But yeah, I'm not surprised Tekken 3 is the best-selling game. That was like at pop culture with PlayStation at the time, you know. And I still remember the advert with the scorpions fighting each other, the red background and that. It was Tekken 3.
Dude, I remember the demo. I remember the demo that came with the official PlayStation Mac. I remember the video that they had. I can still hear the song. I'm still trying to find it actually. When it had Kazuya, not Kazuya, it had Jin Kazama doing a kata, you know, obviously which you see at the beginning of the game. But that game, I mean, Tekken 2 obviously like shook people, you know, for a loop. Everyone was thinking, what the hell? They've actually managed to be consistent. They've built upon the first Tekken, and then Tekken 2 came out, and it was just a fun game to play. But then when Tekken 3 came out, that was the definitive title in the franchise.
And it was one of the best looking games at the time as well.
It was, yeah. The character models were on point. It had great response times. It was just like you were playing like a 2D fighting game, but in 3D. They've managed to find the perfect balance. And they've just gone from strength to strength. The only time that they kind of slipped up was Tekken 4. When they brought out Tekken 4, the environment, they just couldn't really get the balance between the freedom and the, because normally they have like an infinite environment, but when they started putting barriers around it, they just didn't get the balance completely right. But then obviously they did Tekken Tag, and just like whenever they do a tag series, it's like they correct all their little problems, and then like the next iteration is perfect. So
Tekken Tag on PS2, what a game!
Yeah, without doubt. Yeah, even the bowling was good. But look at that, part 3, part 5, part 7. Maybe it has to be part 9 before it, it breaks the series again. But yeah, it's definitely a fan favorite. Definitely a personal favorite for us anyway. So on to number 2, even though I can still just keep talking about Tekken 2, is from one from my camp, the Nintendo camp, which is Super Smash Brothers. Which is from Nintendo, which has sold a total of 65 million, with the top 2 selling games in the franchise being Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which came out in 2018 with 23.84 million, and then Super Smash Bros. Brawl, I think that was one of the first ones in the franchise, in 2008 with 13.32 million. So those are some of the biggest games, obviously, in fighting history. You know what I mean? And that was the number 1 spot.
Ultimate is the biggest fighting game in terms of sales numbers. But again, it's similar to Street Fighter, with the exception of Brawl, which many call the greatest Smash Brothers of all time.
It was fun.
That's the 64 one, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? Brawl. No, Melee was the 64 one. Yeah. So Brawl, a lot of people call one of the best, and you can see that in the sales numbers.
It is. Yeah.
It's been picked up by
because that pad, the GameCube pad, was perfect for Smash Brothers. It was just, it was built for it.
Ultimate, obviously, is riding on Switch at the over the last few years, which has been huge. But Ultimate is like the ultimate homage to fighting games as a whole and the genre as a whole. Everybody's in there. I think the only thing missing from Smash Brothers is Kratos. That's it.
Kratos, he must be coming, and probably Master Chief.
But I haven't played a Smash Brothers since GameCube. Really? No, Wii. Nintendo Wii was the last time I played Smash Brothers.
The Wii one, I mean, basically, I've dived into Smash Bros. Ultimate, and it is amazing the amount of characters, the amount throwing into this franchise is ridiculous. I mean, they must have about 30, 40. I'm not even sure how many characters they've got, but they've got characters from every single major franchise that you can imagine. And the fact is that they've managed to create unique fighting styles for all of them. I mean, they've got Mario kicking ass. They've even got the likes of Bowser, the King K. Rool from Donkey Kong. You've got Squall. You've even got his
don't know who half these guys are. You know what I mean? But it sounds
Final
great.
Fantasy. These are from Fantasy. You should know these guys. Final Fantasy.
Yeah, you and me naming some random, you know what I mean? Cloud, Sephiroth,
anyway,
had Solid Snake. That's all that matters.
You know about Solid Snake. They've even got Steve from Minecraft in there. It's just the sheer innovation. You know what I mean? By them actually creating a game where they've got characters that you wouldn't even think of them even doing any damage to anybody. They've actually created a fighting style for them, and it's brilliant. Just the pure innovation, and that's Nintendo down to a T.
And number 1, mate. What's number 1? You're the total opposite end of the
spectrum. I can still go on about Smash Brothers, but anyway. But yes, surprisingly, number 1, the number 1 top-selling fighting franchise of all time to date, It's Mortal Kombat from Warner Brothers and NetherRealm Studios, isn't it? With 73 million sales, topping Smash Brothers by what, at least what was that, 7 million? Just about, just about. Um, yeah, with the two top-selling games in that franchise, it's Mortal Kombat 11 with 12 million, and Mortal Kombat X, which also had 12 million. So they're pretty much neck and neck.
So 11 is constantly growing, though, isn't it? So
it is. It's constantly growing, and I think they've just struck gold. You know, especially when you thought that this franchise started all the way back in the 90s, and you just thought it was just going to be one of those, you know, little cult classic, maybe. You know what I mean? You wouldn't really think they'll make a good sequel. Part 2 came out, and it was brilliant. They reinvented the wheel, and it became a staple in the fighting genre. But the other iterations like 3, 4, 5, you know, they had some other little spin-offs. They didn't really work too well for me anyway, you know, especially when they went into the 3D realm with was it Mortal Kombat 64 or something? I can't remember the actual title for it. But yeah, they didn't really have that 3D balance. Well, you know what I mean? Obviously the likes of Tekken, Soul Calibur, and even Street Fighter, you know what I mean? They even had that balance well, but Mortal Kombat just couldn't grasp it. But as soon as they released, I think it was Mortal Kombat Deception, you know, when it was Mortal Kombat versus DC, you know, when they did that crossover event. Yeah. And for the first time, they actually worked on the story. You know, they actually had a decent narrative, which you can actually just watch on YouTube. It actually looks like a really good movie, you know, if they were actually to make it theatrically. That's when I realized, okay, they're taking themselves a little bit serious. No, not too seriously, but they're actually just going to make sure that they're delivering quality. And they just went from strength to strength from that release. And the next was Mortal Kombat X, which was, you know, phenomenal, especially with the X-ray breaks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? The fatalities obviously were there; they were in glorious 3D, but the breaks, the little X-ray special moves were brilliant. And obviously, they just doubled down on that for Mortal Kombat 11, which with great story, with the great action, the great animation, and it's just going from strength to strength. So I'm really happy that they've actually smashed and sold smashed it, and they've sold so much. You know, with 12 and counting.
It definitely lost its way. I think Mortal Kombat Trilogy on the original PlayStation was stunning because it had everything in it. That was homage to Mortal Kombat at the time.
It had everything. It had a bit too much for me, though.
I loved it, man. I loved it. But then, yeah, it tried to go 3D, you know, with the Deadly Alliance.
Deadly Alliance, that's it. That was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty good, but it wasn't.
Deadly Alliance.
It just left room for more to be desired. Yeah,
it was Deception as well. So it's Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon. They just went like they didn't know what they were doing.
Armageddon, Armageddon was a bit of a mess.
But then they started when they went back to 2D. They started fixing it, and it went well. And then it was at a time where they were interloping with Injustice, Gods Among Us, and things like that. And then that's where the collaboration came. But then it was really with like Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat 10. It really hit form, and then 11. Like at the currently, like it's such an amazing game to play. It is cool. Not surprised that as a franchise is the best-selling fighting game of all time. Again, if you think about it, if you take Smash Brothers Ultimate, which is an anomaly for sales numbers for the Smash Brothers franchise, the gap between Mortal Kombat and what would be second then, which is Tekken, is over 20 million units. So that one Smash Brothers Ultimate game bridges the gap of all of the fighting games to how big Mortal Kombat actually is. You know what I mean?
It's very true, you know.
It'll be interesting to see, you know, they've finished the DLC for Mortal Kombat now, Mortal Kombat 11, that is. There's no more DLC, no more characters planned, and it's safe to make a bet that they're either working, hopefully, on Injustice 3. If not Injustice 3, it will be Mortal Kombat 12, you know. I mean, because if you did Injustice now, you could do like Suicide Squad in there and everything.
Yes, you know what I mean? Exactly. You know what I mean? Right now, just get it released right in time with like the Flash or even the next DC movie or whatever. But yeah, man, phenomenal. Maybe that's impressive, man. Anyway, so that's the top 10. So basically, just a quick run over again from 5. Soul Calibur, 4 Street Fighter, Soul Calibur, sorry, with 15 million. 4 Street Fighter franchise with 46 million. Number 3, the Tekken franchise with 51 million. Number 2, Smash Brothers with 65 million, which I can't believe is not number 1. But anyway, it is what it is. And number 1, Mortal Kombat, the new reigning champion, with 73 million. That's up to them. Well done. Well, that's been it, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week with all the latest news, what you need to care about in the PlayStation and just gaming world in general. You can catch us on Twitter at latest PS5. You can even give us a holler on email at thelatestps5@gmail.com. We're available on all the socials, all the streaming networks. From basically you can just type us in, you'll find us, and check us out on YouTube as well. But anyway, throwing it over to you for the last word of the day, dude. What you got?
Get over here!
Nice.